exquisite cooking, and harmonizing yoga. Join us as we take the next 30 days to discover a whole new way of living. Hi, and welcome back. Today we're going to be cooking portobello mushrooms over spinach and quinoa. The main ingredients that we're going to need for the sauces, we have two sauces. The first of which is going to be a mix of diced garlic, soy sauce, wasabi, sesame seeds, black pepper, and lemon juice. And then our other sauce, which is going to be going over the mushrooms, is a mix of basil, onions, major, and teriyaki. We'll also be using cheese, bell peppers, and carrots. And then finally we'll be adding sprouts at the end. So let's get started. So we've already prepared the quinoa, and we've kept it just lightly cooked, not to the extent that it's become pasty, but it still keeps its individuality with each of the separate grains. So we'll start first with the veggies. So we're gonna do the bell pepper and the carrots in a julienne style. So to do that, you're just going to cut the veggies up into small individual sections, and they'll come out in these nice little strips. So we'll just be cutting lengthwise into thin strips that turn out to look like this. And we'll be doing the same with the bell pepper as well. Okay, so once you've finished cutting up your veggies, having them nice and thin, we'll move on to the onion. The onion you're going to cut into really tiny chunks. Just dice it up small. Alright. So for my frying pan, I've just put a little bit of olive oil inside to prep it. And then I've also turned the oven on because we're going to be cooking all together in the oven at the end. So I set the oven for 375 and let it get started on heating. So while that's going, we can get started on the veggies. First by putting the onions in. And then with the onions, we'll also be mixing in the marjoram and the basil. So just put a light sprinkle of the marjoram and basil over the top of the onions. And then you can give it a mix together. And then we're going to let the onions fry so that they absorb some of the oil and they also lose some of their potency and they become a little bit more mild. And then once our onions have cooked, we'll add the veggies. So once the onions have absorbed some of the olive oil, and you can get a nice with the scents from the onion and the basil and the marjoram, we can add the veggies. Now keep the veggies on top, the onions underneath. And then we're going to lightly glaze the veggies with some teriyaki sauce, which we'll be using later as well, so don't go too crazy on the use of the sauce. And then we're going to keep the stove on a low heat and then cover the veggies and let them sit. And now while that's cooking, we'll move over and work on the dressing for the salad and the quinoa. So to get started on the dressing, we'll begin with minced garlic. Add about half a tablespoon. Then we'll move on to the soy sauce, adding about 2 to 3 tablespoons depending on how much you're cooking. Then we'll just use about a teaspoon of lemon juice. The black pepper, the sesame seeds, and then finally a touch of wasabi for spice. And with that all mixed together, we'll just stir it up until the garlic and the wasabi have all been blended together into the soy sauce. Now because this looks pretty thick, I have two options. I can either add more soy sauce, or if I don't prefer much salt, I can add some vegetable broth. In this case, I'm going to add a little bit of vegetable broth. This will keep the sauce from becoming too salty. Well, I guess in this instance we've used chicken broth, but it's really up to you what you want to use. Whether you're vegetarian or non-veg. If you are vegetarian, then obviously go with the vegetable broth. Alright, so our sauce is ready. Okay, so for the portobello mushrooms, we're just going to lightly glaze them, again with the teriyaki sauce. And then within the portobellos, we're going to add cheese. So each of the portobello mushrooms gets a little bit of cheese. And then I realized I didn't mention this at the beginning, but if you're someone who has a sweet tooth, then you can add some honey too. I'm going to add some honey because I like it. Just put a little bit of honey over the top. And now our portobellos are ready to go in the oven. So as the portobellos cook in the oven for 5 to 7 minutes, depending on how cooked you want them, we're going to mix together the spinach, quinoa, and the sauce that we've prepared. So I've used about 2 cups of raw spinach, and then we're going to add about a cup of quinoa. And we'll mix slowly the sauce. So we'll put a little bit of the sauce over the top to begin with. And then we'll mix that together. And if you feel fit, you can add the rest of the sauce. Otherwise, if you want to give it a taste test now and see if you like the flavor, you can decide if that's enough for you or not. Once you have it mixed up, then we're ready to go and we can begin to prepare it and put it on plates. Now if you have quinoa remaining, you can just place it on the bottom. And then on top of that, we'll add our quinoa spinach mixture. Then we'll add some of the veggies on top of the spinach, and then the remainder will go over the portobellos. So here's our quite festive looking and delicious and extremely healthy dish, the portobellos over spinach and quinoa. Thanks again for watching, and look forward to having you again for future shows.